Hi, my name is Eric Dillon. I'm with the Johnstone Training Center in Fresno, California, and today we're going to provide you with a 2025 A2L update. Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about today is probably one of the biggest questions we get, and that is there a license requirement? Am I required to go get a new license or an additional license for the use of A2Ls? And luckily for everyone out there, the answer is no. The licensing requirement that the industry was kind of expecting has not come to be. And so the latest information that we have is that the EPA is not planning on requiring an additional license, and we're going to be grandfathered in with our existing EPA 608 license. Probably the second biggest question we get is, well, do I have to have training on this? There's rumors of manufacturers requiring training and such. And I'm going to tell you, yes, you want some training on this. It is a little bit different than what we've been used to. It is, we have the terminology as far as it's slightly to moderately flammable. And the truth of the matter is it's a little more flammable than what we're used to. And so I do recommend training, and what you will find is that most of the manufacturers, most of the national organizations, ASHRAE, ESCO, a lot of them, they're going to also recommend that you get some form of training just so that you're familiar with the small changes that we do have in our industry. So the next big thing that we're faced with this year is, of course, the end of the production of 410A equipment. As of January 1st, 2025, 410A equipment can no longer be manufactured. That doesn't mean that you still can't get a 410A coil. There's still going to be parts and pieces available, but the manufacturers have all switched over. They are now making equipment based on an A2L refrigerant. In most cases, in fact, I think all cases at this point, it's going to be either R32 or R454B. So unfortunately, when we switched from 22 to 410A, we only had one refrigerant that took the place of 22. This time we have two. So one of the things we want to discuss also is code enforcement, building departments and such. Anytime we go through a transition of this scale, as we are with A2Ls, I would caution everybody out there, be careful, right? Because there's going to be some variances from city to city, county to county. So work with your local building department. I would encourage you to do that, please. Because from one county to the next, right, they may have different regulations. I've heard a rumor about two counties next to each other where one requires that you braze the copper line sets if it's going to contain an A2L, and the adjacent county says you can do any form of joining, mechanical joining, except brazing. And so we may see some of that as our building departments, state, local codes, they all have to figure this out just like we do. So just be prepared for that, and please take some time and look into it before you proceed with an install or doing one of these A2L systems. Another note on that is, if you are brazing, if your preferred method is brazing, mine is, please be aware that it is required that you purge with nitrogen if the system will contain an A2L refrigerant. That's always been a best practices for us, and hopefully most of you guys do that already. But if you're not, please be prepared to do that if it's going to contain an A2L refrigerant, as that is now a requirement. So another thing that I would highly suggest you be prepared for, and if you're not familiar with it, please get some training on it, look it up. We have a video on it, and that is triple evacuation. A lot of the manufacturers are going to require that of you to issue their warranty on their equipment, quite frankly. So just be prepared, be familiar with what a triple evacuation is, and be prepared to start doing that. That includes, for those of you that doing the bidding, right, be prepared to add a little labor in there, because that's going to take a little longer to get that thing commissioned and fired up. So probably one of the biggest simple changes we're going to be faced with is left-handed threads on our refrigerant containers and our recovery cylinders. You don't have to go out and buy new gauges. There's already several manufacturers out there who make a left-handed to right-handed quarter-inch thread adapter. So I would encourage you, go ahead and be prepared, get those as you move into this stuff. But yeah, we're going to see the wider spread use of left-handed thread as we transition to A2Ls. So probably one of the biggest changes that we're faced with as far as our day-to-day operations is we have to look at a job a little bit differently. Our pre-install inspection that we do, hopefully most of you do, we need to be on the lookout for other flammable gas sources, other appliances that could possibly be an ignition source if there is an A2L leak. So a lot of it is pre-inspection safety items that we need to be looking for. So again, if you haven't gotten training, I would encourage you to get some training so that you can learn a little bit more about this stuff and learn some of those key things that we want to be looking for. Probably the biggest technical change that we're looking at is the use of RDS. And for those of you that are unfamiliar, that is Refrigerant Detection System. Not all applications will require RDS. But it's looking like overwhelmingly a lot of them will. These are, in some cases, built into the systems. In some cases, they're completely third party, and others they're an add-on, like you would add on a coil to the furnace or whatever. It's just another component that you're going to add to your order. They're fairly simple. They are electronic, they're smart, they have set parameters of what they're going to do, what they're looking for, and what they're going to do. It's mostly low voltage wiring that we're doing with these. But again, if you are not familiar with them, I would encourage you to get some training, contact your suppliers, make sure that you understand if you need to have an RDS system on the structure that you're putting the system on, because there are some restrictions there. But just get educated, get training on it, please. All right, this next little bit of this is going to be more specifically to California. So if you're not in California, you're free to go away, but please don't, stick around, see what we're doing out here in California. In California, they passed Senate Bill 1206 a few years ago. And what that does is it is an HFC refrigerant phase down that is on a much faster pace than what the federal level or the EPA is doing. So the biggest factor in this 1206, this SB 1206, is that, and it came into effect January 1st of 2025. I should have mentioned that at the beginning here. But the biggest effect of that is that it bans for sale any refrigerant with a GWP rating of 2200 or higher in California, and that's virgin refrigerant. If it is reclaimed refrigerant, you're okay. So probably for any of you that might do ice machines or refrigeration out there, 404A is a widely used refrigerant. It is no longer legal to sell 404A in California. The supply house can't sell it to the contractor can't sell it to the customer. As I understand it, if the customer already possesses it, then you can still use it. The only exception, of course, is if it is reclaimed refrigerant. I know at Johnstone, we're now going to be carrying reclaimed 404A and 507 and any of the other HFCs that are over that 2200 mark. So just be aware of that, be very cautious. None of us want to be out there breaking the rules. For any of you that do state work for the state of California, you also need to be aware it is much more stringent for state-owned or operated properties. The GWP number for those properties is at 750. So that means no more 410A. So I guess that means that if you are doing state work and you have a system that uses 410A and it leaks refrigerant, the way the law is written, the way we understand it, you're not allowed to recharge that. That piece of equipment will need to be replaced. So good for you guys that are doing replacements, but bad for us, all of us taxpayers. And lastly, I just want to give you guys kind of a heads up. 410A right now is still good, right? It's on this list for SB 1206 in California. And right now, the date is January 1st, 2030. At that time, the GWP, maximum GWP number in California, will drop to 750, and 410A will no longer be allowed to be used or sold. So just start preparing for that. I know that's not that far away. I know 5 years to some of you may seem like a long time off, but for a lot of us, it's not. It's going to be here quick. And also, please understand that from the way we understand it, the state of California is looking to up that date if possible. For those of you paying attention, you may have found or seen something here recently where New York did something very similar, except they didn't pass a law years ago. They just sprung it out onto the contractors here just in the last month or so. And so if you guys are in New York, I feel for you. But here in California, we're right behind you. So, but this is our reality. A2Ls are a part of our future, right? There's going to be additional phase outs and phase downs as we move forward. And it's to combat climate change, whether you buy into that or not. This is our reality. It's the rules, and we have to abide by those rules. And I would encourage you, get the training, and let's be the best that we can be as we transition to these new refrigerants. Well, thanks for watching. That's all we got for you today. We appreciate the support on the YouTube channel. Keep us in mind for any future training needs. Don't be afraid to look us up here at the JSOG Training Center in Fresno, California, where we provide real-world experience for your real-world career.